can someone just confirm they can see the agenda?
I'm still pushing to YouTube. I can't see it yet.
Okay.
Can see
I
it.
can see the agenda.
I
Okay,
can
great.
see it.
Thank you.
I can see the agenda and we are live on YouTube.
Ready for me to do what I do?
Yes, sir.
The July 2020 virtual meeting of the Alamance County Historic Properties Commission will come to order. Has everybody had a chance to read over the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Were there any questions or corrections?
I have none.
Well, if I get a motion in a second, we'll take care of the minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
So
Okay.
just one note, when we do the virtual meetings,
Yep.
when you speak, say who you are before or after you speak so people on YouTube know who's speaking.
Will do.
I'm Rodney
Yeah.
Cheek. Okay. Rodney Cheek again. Moving to the old business about the Pat Bailey Memorial Plaque. I do not have anything to report on that. On the COVID restrictions, I've not done anything with it. Does anybody else have anything to add to that? Rodney Cheek, once again, we'll move to new business. Let me put my glasses on. Okay, so the landmark designation for Granite Mills. You want to talk about that, Tanya?
Sure. Sure. I'm going to go ahead and let Aaron in, who actually brought us the application. This
Okay.
is one down, is Cora and Holt Mills, which are right there with the Granite Mills in Hall
Mhm.
River. And they're asking for the landmark designation, pretty much the same thing that y'all looked at for Granite Mills back in 2017. She sent the whole packet to us, so you all got a ton of information. We received the application several months ago, and we sent it to the state after our review. They had a couple things that they'd like to modify a little bit, so it took us a little bit longer to get it to you all, but I think it's in a really good place, and the state's very happy with it at this point. So we thought we'd bring it to you all to let us know what you thought of it. Erin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you okay.
All
Can
right.
everyone hear me?
Yes,
I can definitely hear you.
Oh, fantastic.
So Taylor has your presentation. The board can ask questions now, or y'all can wait and let Erin do her presentation, and then y'all can do questions. It's up to you all.
Yeah, hi, this is Ravi here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right, sorry I was a few minutes. I was trying to log in and was having some challenges. So anyways, it's good to be here. I was just going to suggest if we can have the presentation from Erin first and then ask the question, that'd be all right.
I'm in favor of that. This is Rodney.
Hey, Rodney.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
this
Erin,
is-
I think the board would be good with you going ahead and doing your presentation, and then they'll do questions after.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you everybody for your time tonight. I really wish I could be doing this in person, but alas, here we are virtually. My name is Erin Moretti. I'm a development manager with D3 Development, and I'm just really excited tonight to talk to you about Cora and Holt Mills, which were collectively referred to as Debauchery Mill, which I know several of you are familiar, up until their closure in 1983. And specifically, I'm here to speak with you about local landmark designations so that we can truly preserve these two mills' mark on history. And so specifically, if we can move on to slide 2, I'm hoping to, and I can just start speaking till it gets there, but it's hoping to seek approval for local landmark designation for these mills based on local industrial and architectural significance, which I'll present my case tonight. And for those of you who are not familiar with D3 development, I'll give Taylor a minute here. If we could, whenever you have a chance, move to the next slide. We are incredibly invested in Alamance County, first starting with the white furniture factory in the 1880s furniture factory, which we completed in 2015 in Mebane. And also now we are preserving the 1844 granite mill, which is now referred to as the Lofts on Haw River. So it's just clear that I hope it's clear that we're just incredibly invested in Alamance County, and we're really excited to take on Cora and Holt Mill. And it'd be remiss to not mention on the next slide our extensive experience. Here I put Mike Hill. He presented to you a few months back. He has over 20 years of experience preserving historic properties, most significantly American Tobacco Campus, which is known as the largest historic project completed in North Carolina. So I really truly believe that the D3 development team is the best ones to preserve Cora and Holt. But going back to Cora and Holt and the agenda today, I'll be going over the current status of the mills, why it's important for us to receive this local landmark designation, and finally, why they qualify for local significance. And so moving on to this next slide, Cora and Holt, as I referred to before, collectively referred to as Tabadri Mill. They were built in the 1890s, and they're located in the town of Haw River, right across from Granite Mill, and are connected by a skywalk, which, as you'll see in future slides, all of this is still intact. And here you can just see a nice historical photo of the two mills. And moving on to the next slide, in terms of the current status, so as I said, Granite Mill is right across from Cora and Holt. And these mills were very tied together, not only because they were owned by the same Holt family, but also their operations. Cora and Holt were the ones where the cotton was spun and then was brought over to Granite Mill, in which it was finished for shipping. And so, through the National Register process, not only based on the historical significance, but also the architecture that is maintained in all these mills, we were able to expand the historic district to include Cora and Holt as of April. And really our next step is getting the local landmark designation. And I'm really hoping tonight to get your support in order to present to the Board of Commissioners on Monday, as we'd really like to get moving on this project. We've already interviewed architects. And as you see, you'll see on this next slide why it's incredibly important for us to get this landmark designation. When it comes to these mill projects, they all have their unique challenges. When it comes to Cora and Holt, what we're facing here is more significant than what we faced at Granite Mill, and hence why landmark designation is especially important for us. The first being the lack of infrastructure. We're already aware of the fact that we're going to have to do significant investment in infrastructure on this project. In addition, an environmental survey discovered significant amount of asbestos and also contaminated soil. So it's really important for us to just clear that out and not let it sit. And then finally, there is deterioration in parts of Cora and Holt. And so we don't want to wait here to start and preserve these buildings. We'd love to start immediately. And so again, just really hoping for your support. And moving on to the next slide. When it comes to local significance and also integrity, we really believe these mills maintain all these. First of all, the industrial significance, which I'll show to you in a couple slides, as well as the architectural significance, which I'll also show you. But most importantly, the integrity of the location, setting, feeling, association, design, materials, and workmanship. I'd really like to show you that is all preserved here in Cora and Holt. So if we can move on to the next slide here. In the interest of time, I'm not going to walk through each of these, this timeline, as I know you received this earlier, but it's just clear throughout each of these events that I've marked, and also just the impact of Cora and Holt on the culture and shaping of the town of Haw River. It is just incredibly important. It has local significance in terms of its industrial history. And D3 really wants to preserve that. And in fact, we've gone an extra step. In the appendix, you will find some language regarding a plaque, which we really hope to highlight the historical significance of these mills if we have the opportunity to proceed with this landmark designation. If we can move on to the next slide. Here on these couple slides, I've just pointed out all the character defining features that Cora and Holt possess. With Cora, the most significant being this zigzag curtain wall that was patented by Charles A.M. Perret. It is one of 5 buildings left in the US with this particular wall. So it's incredibly important to preserve this. And as you can see, the elevated walkway still exists, and just that front stair tower with the decorative brick is all intact. If we continue to move on to the next slide, we'll see the east part of Cora, in which the decorative brick is still maintained. You can also see the front gable roof. And in fact, when I hope you all come out and tour, you'll be able to see the zigzag wall continues on this side. And then if we can move on to the next slide, you'll see Holt also contains significant resources that are still intact. The smokestack, the bell tower, the boiler house, which are all in incredible condition, and we really want to continue to preserve it. If we move on to the next slide, here we have the dye house, which had a sawtooth roof, which is really important for ventilation. So this is not only an important architectural feature, but also in terms of the industrial history, because of how forward it was for their time to be having this type of building. And just going down to the final slide here, I just want to thank everybody for your time and hearing me tonight. And I really want to invite everybody to tour the 1844 granite mill, now lost on Haw River. So I provided my contact information here. If you ever would like to come on out, I'd love to tour you. And at this time, I'd love to take any questions.
Yes, this is Lee Abbott. I hadn't seen the National Register form. What was the period of significance? I know the mills were built 1892, 1895.
Yes. So the period of significance, I would need to just verify it, but I assume it'd be from the 1844 through the 1890s, where when Cora and Holt were built, because the National Register boundary also includes Granite Mill.
Okay, and they're included on the National Register as a district, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Erin, this is Ravi here.
Hi, Ravi.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation and all your efforts. Just had a question. You highlighted some of the challenges that you see. You mentioned lack of infrastructure. You also talked about the asbestos and the advanced stages of deterioration. So given that, how do you feel about overcoming those challenges along with preserving the historical significance of the structure itself?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question.
And then on the same lines, what kind of urgency do you see regarding the challenges? How soon should this happen?
Answer to your first part of your question, when it comes to these mills, we're used to everything that I've listed is nothing surprising. It just really increases the urgency in which we need to move forward on this project. So we're prepared to overcome these challenges. This is exactly what D3 specializes and does. And so when it comes to the preservation, we're really not concerned because we're actually in the process of hiring an architect, and we're looking at architects with historic experience and who are familiar, have relationships with SHPO, National Park Service. So they will ensure that they're preserving the integrity of these buildings. Did I answer your question completely?
Yeah, that's really good. And I was also wondering the timeline, like how soon or to get more.
Yes, we're hoping to go under construction next year. That is the hope. So, this is a top priority to us to move forward as soon as possible. And as I said, we're interviewing architects. We're hoping to bring on an architect in August. So we're in mid-July now. We've interviewed 3 last week, and we're interviewing 1 more this week. So we're really excited about this project, and we're ready to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Lee Abbott again. The development that you're planning, is it going to be similar to the white furniture and the Granite Mills development, where it's residential and commercial?
Yes, it is. So actually, white furniture is all residential, but at Granite we do have retail, and so we are looking to incorporate residential and retail here as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this is Rodney. Does anybody have any other questions? Getting this a little too easy on her.
Well, it's a great project, and these are mills that we really want to preserve, and so I hope you all you support.
Yeah, it really, this is Lee Abbott. It really helped to get the packet, have the ability to go through and read everything. So that really helped.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I worked really hard on both the packet and also the presentation.
It shows.
Thank you.
Well, if we can't come up with any other questions, since it's already on the commissioner's agenda for Monday, we ought to give them something to do. This is Rodney.
All
I
right.
do actually have them to put it on tentatively because we had to commit to those items. I can pull it if need be, or I can move forward and ask the commissioners for a public hearing for August. So this board's recommendation I'd have to have before I do that.
Well, this is Rodney again. I think we either ought to ask some more questions or make a motion.
This is Lori. I make a motion that we submit this application to the county.
This is Sarah Paris, and I seconded that motion.
So we've got a motion to recommend this to the Board of Commissioners for their approval. And a second. Is there any discussion?
So before we take the final vote, when we do a vote virtually, each person, you pretty much have to do it by roll call, say your name and say your vote. And Rodney, you can call names or they can call their individual names.
I can do what?
You can call their names out and ask for their vote, or they can call their names out and tell you their vote.
Well, it's going to sound like me being lazy, but since they know who they are, I'm going to let them do that. So all in favor, identify yourself and say aye.
This is Lee Abbott. I recommend approval.
Gail Pettiford, yes.
Laurie,
Brian Dalton. Yes.
Laurie Smith, yes.
Ravi
Sarah
Balan, yes.
Harris, yes.
Is there anybody who hasn't voted?
We have Miss Hadley.
Ms.
Let
Hadley
me
hadn't
see
voted.
if she is on mute.
She is on mute. We can unmute her, I think.
There
Catherine
you go.
Hadley,
There
yes.
she is.
I did it a while ago, but someone was talking, someone else was talking.
Well, we've got all the votes now.
Okay. So everybody's voted yes, so but I'll say, any opposition? Okay, so that's carried. We'll recommend to the county commissioners that they approve this.
Thank
And
you so
Tanya,
much.
if you'd take care of that.
I sure will. And Aaron, I'm going to kick you back out to the waiting room and bring in our next agenda items. But thank you for spending time with us. We are on YouTube as well if anybody wants to watch the rest of the meeting.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your support and look forward to speaking in front of the Board of Commissions. Thank you again.
And I will get with you, probably call you tomorrow on all of that for Monday night.
Okay, thank you so much, Tanya. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay, Rodney, I'm going to go ahead and let in all 3 candidates we have for this month. And you can decide what order you want them in,
Okay,
but we're going to bring them all in so they can hear everything.
all right.
Would it be helpful to you all to have the applicant or the applications up on the screen, or do you already have those?
They do not have Chris's because I stuck Sarah's in and switched them out. So Rodney has Chris's, but I don't think anybody else's does. So Rodney,
Okay.
whenever you call them, we'll throw whichever person, their application up on the screen so that everybody can see that while they introduce themselves.
Okay. Well, I'm looking through these that I have.
You should have a Lisa, a James, and a Christopher.
Yeah, that sounds right. And I may have 2 of them. Let me. Lisa. And Christopher, okay. Now I've got 2 sets of applications, so I need to get the right set. Okay. Well, the first one I'm looking at is James Waters.
James,
Yes,
can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Yep. Sorry, I was had to unmute myself. Good evening. How are y'all? Hope you're doing well.
Can you turn
We
your
are,
camera
thank
on too, James? Are you on the computer?
I am. Give me a second. Can y'all see me?
Yes, we can.
We can now.
So if you notice, my name on the screen is actually TRA. That's a nickname I go by since I'm the third. My dad was a junior and my grandpa was a senior, but James is my legal name, but I go by Trey.
What is your grandson's nickname going to be if he's the 5th?
I'm not
This
sure.
is right.
We've thought about like if I have one. I have one child. I have a daughter. We don't have any boys yet, but I got that question a lot. Were you gonna name him Quadruple? And I was like, no, we can name him Drew for Quadruple. So that was our go-to answer.
There you go. So Tanya, this is Rodney. How many spaces are we needing to fill? 3?
All right, so on my spreadsheet, I've got 10 current board members.
Correct.
We max out at 15, wasn't it, Taylor?
Yes.
We max out at 15, so we could take all 3 members tonight, depending on what the board wants to do, and still be looking for a couple.
Okay. Well, this is Rodney. Y'all ask some questions.
Do you want me to just start with like kind of an opening just to kick things off, or you want?
Or you could do that. That'd
Yeah,
work.
I'll do that. I'll kind of summarize what was in the application. So again, name's Trey Waters. I currently live in Mebane. I moved up here. Well, I moved up to Chapel Hill in 2001. I went to Carolina. I had a full ride to UNC. Got my degree in psychology and exercise and sports science. Right after that, I was fortunate enough to get an internship at the High School Athletic Association, and 15 years later, I'm still at the High School Athletic Association. So I planned on this call, and that was fine, but with the governor announcing what he was doing with schools today, he didn't throw us under the bus, but somebody asked him a question about sports, and he said, well, that's not our decision. High School Athletic Association is going to make that decision. So we have a board meeting call with them at 7. So been dealing with that, but been a resident of Alamance County the last 14 years, since 2006. Moved out here when we were married. My wife and I married in 2006. Our daughter, she just turned 10. So 3 of us live out here. My ties to Alamance County, it's kind of I guess just a circular story. I grew up near Charlotte. For those that know the western half of the state, in a town called Lincolnton, which is in between Hickory and Gastonia, a little west of Charlotte. So grew up there, went to Lincolnton High School, graduated valedictorian of my class there, but I've always had a keen interest for history. Part of my I guess my AG projects that I did was actually going around, obviously prior to the internet, going around and finding all of the historical markers in Lincoln County, writing them down, plotting where they were. So I've always had that kind of interest in historical facts and figures. But ironically enough, my mom grew up in Mebane and went to Eastern Alamance High School. So it was kind of, thank you. It was kind of I guess a circular journey that we ended up back in Mebane. My mom always brought up Mebane, always talked about Mebane and Alamance County. And then when we ended up back here, I thought that was pretty ironic. But I guess a couple of weeks ago, I was one of the 2 finalists for the Board of Trustees position at Alamance Community College. I didn't get it, but they encouraged me to involve myself more with some local committees or put myself out there, obviously at the local level. So as I was on the website, I looked up different commissions and saw this one. I thought, no, that's right down my alley. So that's why I applied, but that's kind of a Cliff Notes version of my journey to here so far.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, does anybody have any questions? This is Rodney.
This is Lee Abbott. Hey, Trey.
Hey.
I noticed from your application that you have an MA from East Carolina. What was the MA in?
It was in health education and promotion.
Okay.
So, and I'll give you a reason. My degrees are, I have 2 degrees that have nothing to do with athletics whatsoever. Health education. Well, to get one of our, I guess, assistant commissioner roles when we were employees of UNC, we're a standalone entity now, but when we were employees of UNC, a prerequisite was to have a master's degree. So when I started, that's right when online degrees were coming on. So their health education degree was something I could complete online. So I stayed working full time. I was able to complete that in 2010. But again, that was with the thought of I needed, more than anything, needed a master's degree. And then I figured that would be good to have just from the educational standpoint and in writing and getting more comfortable with my writing. But it's interesting when people walk in my office in Chapel Hill, they said, "Do you have a degree in psychology and health education? How are you the assistant commissioner of sports for the high school athletic association?" I was like, I don't know.
You can tell them that excelling in sports is a lot of mental control as well.
I will say sometimes I will throw that out there, and if somebody gives me a hard time, I'm like, look, I have a psychology degree, and 90% of our job is talking parents and officials and people from Department of Public Instruction, State Board of Education, wondering what in the world we're doing in Chapel Hill, talking them off a ledge. So that one in particular, the higher I have gotten at the High School Athletic Association, it's become evident that was a godsend, being able to have those skills.
This is Lee Abbott. Thanks, Trey.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this is Robbie. Can you hear me?
Hey, Robbie.
Hey, so it's quite striking. You mentioned in the application that you're very, it seems like you're quite passionate about ensuring that historical properties are not, that they get their due recognition and not lost because of the age or disrepair. And so on, which is quite striking because that's something that we actually covered in the earlier part of the meeting today. So it's
okay. Well, I grew up. Our family, it was just me, my mom, and dad, and we were we were under poverty line, Medicaid, etc. And my dad just driving around. We used to just travel the roads up in the mountains because we didn't have any money to really, do anything. But he would always make a point to look over. Let's say there's an old farm or something, and it's just really a perfectly good house, just going to waste, where somebody just moved out and people own the land but decided not to do anything with it, and it could have been a house that was built in 1780 for all we know. And he always pointed that out, which I thought was interesting. So even when I'm driving from Mebane to Chapel Hill, I go down 54. There are plenty of houses right there where they haven't started developing. That just kudzu comes over them, and you really have no idea who lived there, what went on, what kind of family was it? Was it somebody important? And in light of all the, I guess, the things that are going on for the past month or two with different monuments, et cetera. And I know the whole stuff with the monument in Graham, but I kind of feel that aside from the political standpoint, I don't want to, that is not my MO whatsoever. I don't like politics as it is, but yes, there may be a certain place for a particular monument or memorial, but we don't want to get to the point where you're almost clean slating a history book and whitewashing the fact that these things occurred or these are things that went on. And I do think just across the entire state, yeah, we have a great state history, but each individual county has great histories too. And especially with Alamance, with the textiles, and granted that we're on right on 40. We have so much traffic that goes through here. Keeping that viable and keeping people here that come here that want to be entertained or want to see some of that historical perspective I think is key. I mean, even last summer I took my daughter down to Alamance Battleground, and we were the only people there. But I thought it was interesting. I mean, to say the least, it was a small Revolutionary War battle, but that was interesting. Something that happened here, and you're not going to read that in a history book because you're not taking local history. You're doing state history or U.S. history. So that's really kind of my impetus for the reason I wrote that in for that question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? This is Rodney. Okay. We want to move on to the next applicant, Tanya.
Sure. Let's see here. I think I have Christopher Cosby as my next applicant. Christopher, if you can turn your camera on and kind of do what James did to let the board know about your interest in the board seat.
Okay,
All right.
Trey.
Yes, sir.
Right, well, I will follow Trey's lead and sort of tell you a little bit about myself and the interest I have in the board. So first of all, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak with you all about joining the County Historic Properties Commission. First and foremost, I hope you and your families and friends are coping with the health situation going on right now. But I'd also like to mention a little bit about my background, as well as maybe a little story about when I moved here. So by day, I'm a data analyst with the UNC Health Foundation, which is the fundraising arm of the UNC Hospital. And by night, kind of like a costume superhero, I indulge my passion for history by sort of immersing myself in the myriad of books that I have. My wife and I have lived in the snow camp area for about 1.5 years, and North Carolina for about 3.5 years. And we've just fallen in love with the area. But when my wife and I first relocated to the area, we learned very quickly about a lake nearby called Jordan Lake. And we quickly went camping there and thought it was lovely. And when we bought our house, like any new homeowners, we were driving around the area to see if there was anything sort of interesting that we can find and sort of get the lay of the land. And just up the road from our house on State Road 87, there's a historic plaque mentioning B. Everett Jordan and how he's a senator from North Carolina for many years and sort of lived 1.5 miles away from that historical marker. And I remember thinking that's really interesting. So I, like any millennial, I took myself to Wikipedia, and lo and behold, we learned that the Jordan Lake and B. Everett Jordan had a connection. And I would have never found out about that were it not for that sign. I thought maybe it was named after Michael Jordan, for all I know. But that's just like a personal example of, how something like a historical marker in the county has educated me on the area of where I live. And, I would love the opportunity to further to not only learn about the area that I live, but also help bring kind of similar educational sort of illuminations to my fellow citizens of Alamance County. Again, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Well, this is Rodney, and just for the record, that was Arkansas weighing in on the time. If anybody's got any questions, now's the time to ask them.
I welcome you all to my loft area in my house. If you'd like, I can talk more about myself.
This is Ravi. I was just going to say, we appreciate your interest and your enthusiasm for the position.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And this is Lee Abbott. Is there a particular period of U.S. history that is more fascinating than others to you?
Oh, well, there's a question with layers. You know, I have an undergraduate degree in history, and at the time I was actually studying European and Russian history. But since I graduated, I learned more and more about U.S. history. I think I was sort of enamored, like a lot of people, with the Civil War, sort of through Ken Burns and Shelby Foote. But since then, my interest has really expanded to the time of the founding of the country up through kind of Reconstruction. That's the area of time that I find most fascinating. You know, how does a country go from a solidified group of colonies to a country, to then sort of ripping itself apart, to then trying to heal itself? And honestly, it's something that we've been dealing with ever since. That's the sort of era that I love learning about. And you know, my wife complains about the amount of books that we have because the books outnumber the bookshelf space. So I've got them doubled up in some bookshelves and sitting on the floors. But that is the era that I'm just so interested in. So it's quite fitting that we ended up, you know, in an area that could have seen, you know, troops walking by at some point during that area. It's quite fascinating to me.
Yeah, this is Lee Abbott again. I was going to say that if you're interested in the pre-revolutionary period and the revolutionary period, Alamance County is rich in that.
Mm-hmm. It's not all about Yorktown and sort of the big fights. A lot of things that happen on the local level. So it's really fascinating to learn about things like that.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions? This is Rodney. In that case, do we want to move on to number 3?
Yes, so Lisa, if you could turn your camera on and kind of follow suit from James and from Christopher, and just tell us a little about yourself.
Can you see me? It's on.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I went to Wake Forest University as an undergrad as a history major, and I graduated and went to University, excuse me, of Kentucky Law School. And I've been here for 27 years. Sorry. I've been to all the local sites, Battleground, Glen Raven. I've always been interested in history, obviously I have a degree in it. So I'm so sorry. When I saw this come up in the newspaper, I decided to apply. And I would like to help preserve and do whatever we can to promote the history of this county.
Well, thank you. This is Rodney. Now's the time for questions.
Rodney, if I could reiterate just for a minute, I think our current board members are aware, but for the new board members that are applying tonight, we sit as a certified local government through the state. We represent pretty much everybody but the city of Burlington for all their historic needs. So we do, and Graham, we don't do Graham. So we do Mebane, we do Green Level, we do Hall River, and of course, everything else. With that said, because we are a certified local government, we are looked to continue our education and training through what would be the North Carolina SHPO group. We have had lots of boards and lots of opportunity, and will continue to, through SHPO, to do training. And now we have to have, I think it's 3 board members and a staff person go through training every year. Some of y'all have gotten the email and everything that SHPO put out this week that we are going to go to a virtual training platform so that they can get everybody's hours in. I think it's either 4 or 6 hours they look for at least 3 board members to do. And they're looking for the platforms they put up and the modules they put up. You do 3 of those modules, and then you write a synopsis to turn in to certify that those hours have been done. These are things that we have to do every year to keep our certification as a local government. And I just want to kind of put that out there to make sure that all board members, including people that are interested in, know that that's kind of something that on your own time you do. If they get back to doing modules, they usually do them in Raleigh, they did down east and west. The county would pay for travel and everything to go to those when they go back to doing in person. Right now, they're not charging any fees for the online modules, but we would pay for that to make sure that our board stays certified. That's just a piece of information that I feel like everybody should know about. Thank you, Rodney.
And that was a great segue into that. Does anything else need to be said on that, in your opinion, Tanya? You think you covered it all?
God, I hope so. But if I missed something, you can pick that up.
Well, I think that that you covered it, and I have been to training with Brian. I think I've been with Ravi. I'm pretty sure I've been to a training session with Laurie Smith and maybe some members of this commission who have rotated off or retired. And I have not been in a couple of years, and for that I'm remiss and I apologize. But I'm not the only one who can go. So if it goes virtual, that may make it easier for more people to be certified.
And Rodney, I'll get that information to you. It came by email to us and we did send it to the board, but like I said, it was this week, so I'll get it over to you.
Okay, well, that's fine. Thank you. Do we want to take some action on these applicants tonight, or do we want to see if we can have a in-person meeting and talk to them directly?
Yeah, this is Ravi. I personally feel we could take action based on what we have heard from each one of us.
And this is Lee Abbott. I agree with Ravi. I think that we have enough information to take action.
Okay. Well, somebody takes some.
You want a motion?
Yep.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we approve all three applicants.
That was Lee Abbott.
Sorry, yep.
This is Gail. I second.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to recommend all three applicants to the Board of Commissioners for appointment to the Historic Properties Commission. Does everybody understand? Is there any discussion? Okay, well, since Pearl's not here, but she was in the floor laughing the last time we voted, I'm gonna go this a different way. I'm gonna see if I can remember everybody that's here. So I'm gonna call your name and you say if you're in favor of or opposed to. Lee?
I favor approval.
Ravi?
Yes.
Laurie?
Yes.
Brian?
I favor.
Okay. Now y'all work with me on this. I told you I couldn't make no changes. Ms. Hadley?
Yes.
Let's see.
We also have Gail and Sarah.
That's it. Sarah?
Yes.
Miss Gail?
Yes.
Have I called everybody's name?
Yes.
All right, well, it's unanimous. I don't even ask if there's any opposition.
So kind of procedurally from here, we will make this recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Candidates, y'all are not required to be at that meeting. It usually goes on consent, so you wouldn't speak anyway, but we'll look for that at the first August meeting, and I believe that's August 6th. Let me see here. August 3rd, sorry. So on August 3rd, we'll look for that to be on the agenda, and you'll get a formal letter from the Board of Commissioners once that's done. So you should be able to be seated for the August Historic Properties meeting.
Thank you.
Any questions about that?
No, sir. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
I appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you for your interest. This is Rodney. All right, so now we've got 2 potential spaces on the board. So if anybody knows anybody, that would fill the commission completely. Do you have anything else, Tanya?
I do not. That was just my thing. We want to make sure we keep our certification, and we're still looking for 2 members. We're great where we're at because we have to have 9 as a minimum, and we have met that now and doing really good. We've struggled with that a little in the last year, but I think we're on a good path. So overall, I don't have any additional announcements for you all.
Okay. What about Taylor? She got anything to tell us?
I don't. Tanya covered it with the virtual training. So if anyone has questions about putting the synopses together after they do each video, feel free to ask me, but I think we should be all set.
All righty. Well, in that case, does any of the commissioners have anything they want to add at this point?
Hey, Taylor, this is Robbie here. Just a quick question. So when are those synopses, once we do them, is there a certain date by which it has to be done?
I don't have a confirmed date yet. They're releasing them through the end of August. So I would tentatively plan for August 31st, but I will confirm with Christy to give you her deadline.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is that got us? Well, one more motion and we're through. This is Rodney.
This is Lee Abbott. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
This is
Okay.
Brian.
This is Robbie second.
Thank y'all for this virtual meeting. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Thanks, folks.
Night.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, goodbye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a good night, everyone.